I'm from Burkina Faso. One would wonder why bringing somebody from Burkina to chair the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. But that's the Pan-Africanism and the leadership and vision that President Kagame is sharing with you all to show that you don't have to be Rwandan, you just have to be African.
In a development that is shaking the very foundations of global diplomacy and energy economics, African leaders Captain Ibrahim of Burkina Faso and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda are rewriting the rules, redrawing Africa's energy map with a bold and strategic alliance that has left the European Union stunned and scrambling for a response. For decades, Africa's energy story has been written outside its borders. Foreign corporations extracted Africa's natural wealth, Western nations decided the terms, international agencies dictated energy policies, signed development deals, and left nations with little more than dependency and underdevelopment. But that era, it seems, is fast coming to an end. The partnership between and Kagame marks a tectonic shift in African geopolitics, one defined not by foreign intervention but by African innovation, self-reliance, and continental cooperation. Let's start with Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim's leadership. The nation has made energy independence a national priority. But Kagame is not stopping at solar. He has shown keen interest in nuclear technology, lithium battery research, and green hydrogen, looking far beyond aid and toward African innovation. Rwanda has entered into talks with African and non-aligned partners to build the continent's first fully independent, small-scale modular nuclear reactor for civilian energy use, and the predatory financing that has long enslaved the continent's power sectors. And Kagame are building a roadmap that can be replicated from Kinshasa to Windhoek, from Accra to Addis Ababa. Western energy companies have quietly admitted that the new wave of nationalization and regional partnerships could threaten billions in planned investments. Several European delegations have already requested high-level meetings in both Ouagadougou and Kigali, desperate to understand this new direction. Rwanda may provide technical know-how. Burkina Faso offers critical minerals like uranium and gold, and together they offer a model of what African leadership looks like when it prioritizes sovereignty over submission. By rejecting IMF-imposed constraints and limiting the influence of Western-backed companies, Burkina Faso is now investing heavily in state-controlled solar fields, small-scale hydropower, and domestically managed uranium exploration, and what's more, has declared that no foreign entity will control or export Burkina Faso's energy future. Shared energy corridors, joint uranium processing, and continental solar grid designs are no longer far-fetched ideas. They are on the table, and African engineers are sketching them out. But Africans are waking up to the truth that independence means nothing if you don't own your light, your fuel, your power. Gone are the days of sending raw materials abroad and buying back finished energy products at 10 times the price. Africa is not a resource warehouse. Africa is a continent of leaders, builders, and visionaries. Africa has risen, and we will never go back. His government is training local engineers, building national infrastructure, and funding energy projects directly from the state treasury. An Africa that lights its homes, powers its industries, and fuels its future on its own terms. Now shift your attention to Rwanda, a country that has been quietly transforming into a technological powerhouse. President Kagame, long known for his discipline and strategic foresight, has spent years building Rwanda's renewable energy base, including one of the most advanced off-grid solar programs in East Africa. So what happens when two leaders, one in West Africa, one in East Africa, decide to align their energy vision? You get what analysts are now calling Africa's energy independence bloc. This alliance goes beyond diplomacy. It is a call to arms for all African nations to end reliance on imported electricity, foreign fuel, and the West is taking notice. Reports from Brussels indicate that EU policymakers are concerned about losing influence over Africa's energy transition. But make no mistake, this is not a temporary protest or populist stunt. This is a strategic Pan-African transformation. By focusing on intra-African cooperation, the Kagame Alliance is seeking to share resources, combine technical expertise, and coordinate infrastructure investment. This development also signals something even more profound. Africa is no longer waiting for permission to lead. Gone are the days when African presidents begged for energy investment at global forums, only to be offered loans with strings attached. What Ibrahim and Paul Kagame are doing is asserting loudly that Africa can and must control its energy destiny. The ripple effects are already visible. Mali, Niger, Guinea, and even parts of southern Africa are reportedly in early discussions to join or mirror the alliance. Of course, there will be challenges. The West will not give up its grip easily. there will be economic pressure, diplomatic threats, even media campaigns painting these leaders as radical or anti-development. In conclusion, this is more than an energy deal. It is a statement to the world. Africa is not a colony, Captain Ibrahim and President Paul Kagame are not just leaders of their nations, they are architects of a new Africa. And to the European Union, to the IMF, to every global institution used to calling the shots, we say this: the world has changed.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Good evening, and welcome to Talk of Africa 360, where Africa's rising vision is reported without filter. Tonight, we bring you a story that has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles in Brussels, Paris, and Berlin, and across capital cities throughout Africa. The European Union spoke of supporting renewable energy in Africa while signing new gas and mining deals with former colonial partners. The narrative went, Europe will fund, Europe will guide, Europe will lead Africa's transition. To a large extent, powerful companies, sometimes linked to European governments like Total Energies in Uganda or LNG interests in Mozambique, continued to dominate. Couched in development aid, it was still economic control. Together, they have committed to building energy systems based on African raw materials, renewable solar for years. The EU sought to expand clean energy projects in Africa, solar farms, green hydrogen deals, just energy transition partnerships, most notably in South Africa and Senegal. Yet, in talks with Kagame and Traore, these initiatives are now being questioned. This emerging energy bloc rejects CFA Franc-era deals and EU-led renewable financing packages that have historically excluded Africans from control. The EU's green diplomacy, once sold as partnership, is seen by rising African leaders as still tethered to foreign control. It is among the top producers of gold and offers major lithium and uranium reserves. A nation once entirely dependent on hydroelectric power, it is investing in off-grid solar partnerships and debated modular nuclear options as Rwanda positions itself as a renewable test site. Kagame has said Africa is no riskier than anywhere else for investment, but insisted investment come on African terms, not EU conditionality. And their summit pledges are no longer shaping African policy. They are being challenged by leaders asserting Africa first. EU officials, once confident behind closed doors of African deference, are realizing that a new generation and a new leadership is demanding equitable, mutual partnership, not paternalistic aid. Privately, their strategic energy planning assumes African countries will cling to EU aid. Kagame and Traore undo that assumption. The trajectory is clear: a continent powered by its own energy resources, governed by its own policymakers, and resistant to foreign conditional frameworks. And Europe, long seen as the partner of progress, is now confronted with two African leaders who are unafraid to say, "We will define our future." As we bring this extraordinary report to a close, it is vital that we reflect deeply on the significance of what is unfolding across the African continent. Their continent-spanning alliance declares that Africa will build its own energy future, from Burkina's gold and uranium to Rwanda's solar and nuclear ambitions. Together with Mali and Niger in the Sahel Alliance, these countries aim to move from raw resource exporters into energy producers. Building refineries, it is about Africa finally standing on its own feet, leveraging its enormous resources, not for the benefit of foreign investors or multinational corporations, but for the people of Africa. A vision where nations cooperate on infrastructure, pool technological expertise, and generate power that serves African industries, homes, and schools. European think tanks are scrambling to analyze what this means for their energy diplomacy. Development banks are reevaluating projects. And behind closed doors, some foreign leaders are expressing concern that Africa is moving away from traditional partners. They are asking, why must Africa always be the junior partner, even in its own house? That question is resonating across capitals from Accra to Addis Ababa. Rwanda's investment in off-grid solar and potential nuclear research is meeting Burkina Faso's vision of energy independence through state-controlled resources and anti-colonial economic policies. Mali, Niger, and now even Ghana have shown signs of interest in regional energy cooperation. Pan-African institutions are beginning to echo the call for localized energy industries and African-controlled value chains. What it needed was the political will. Now it has that too. These are not isolated efforts. These are building blocks of a continental revolution, to ban foreign mining operators, and to put the interests of Burkinabes first. It is operational. It is real. President Kagame, ever the strategist, has spent years building Rwanda's technical capacity, insisting that Africa can compete in high-value, tech-driven industries, including energy. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda and Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso are not merely initiating energy projects or making loud political statements. They are shifting the foundation upon which Africa's future will be built. The deals struck over the last century have rarely prioritized African citizens. Wealth flowed out, while poverty remained behind. Recognition that a new chapter in African history is being written, not by foreign consultants, but by African hands. Not by overseas media, but by African voices. And not for outside investors, but for the children growing up in Ouagadougou, Kigali, Bamako, Niamey, and across a continent that has waited far too long to control its own destiny. It will require massive investments, skilled workforces, careful diplomacy, and infrastructure built from the ground up. But perhaps for the first time in modern African history, it will be done not on behalf of others, but on behalf of Africa's own people. But tonight, we close with a single truth. The future of Africa will not be handed down. It will be built, lit, and powered by Africa itself. This has been your special report. Good night, and may Africa rise in power and dignity. Africa is moving forward. But now, leaders like Traore and Kagame are saying, enough. Solar Park's potential modular nuclear sites, with plans to supply power not only to their own people, but to neighboring states like Ghana. When they say national energy control, they literally mean rewriting the terms of trade, bypassing European-controlled electricity grids and pipelines, and creating value-added industries locally. The European Union, long a key player in African energy planning, now finds itself out of step with leaders who no longer want aid. They want respect. Who no longer seek permission, they seek justice. They are saying no to energy projects controlled by foreign contractors, foreign terms, and foreign timelines. And most importantly, they are saying yes to African ownership, African direction, and African benefit. Agreements like the CO2 border adjustment mechanism, which tax imports based on emissions, are viewed as potentially protectionist. African leaders rightly fear that EU-developed energy transition programs may favor dependency rather than autonomy. This is the same vision embedded in the African Union's draft Continental Power System Master Plan and Africa's single electricity market, but now being operationalized outside of donor control. And hydro potential and possibly nuclear power, tied together through cooperation rather than neo-colonial privatization. Traore's Burkina Faso has rejected donor-led development and foreign debt, instead prioritizing state control of resources and domestic training programs for engineers, miners, and technical staff. A new currency, new passports, new grids could follow. Europe risks losing its influence unless it shifts to real power sharing. It is about two leaders, Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, who together are redefining Africa's energy future and challenging Western dominance over the continent's power resources. This is being described in EU circles as unsettling and even disruptive to their long-standing strategic approach. For decades, the narrative around African energy has been written in foreign capitals. Nearly half of Rwanda's electricity now comes from renewable sources. Rwanda is investing in off-grid solar arrays, exploring modular small nuclear reactors, and actively courting technology partnerships from South Korea to Russia. Kagame speaks openly of the imbalance in global energy markets, why Western countries retain fossil fuel access while African nations must leapfrog past them. Rwanda's message is clear: energy must be planned, owned, and governed by Africans, not dictated by foreign agencies. But now, the script is changing. In Kigali, President Kagame has advanced Rwanda's energy independence. Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, Captain Ibrahim Traore has taken aggressive steps to secure Burkina Faso's energy sovereignty. He has nationalized mineral resource extraction, launched a gold refinery, banned foreign firms from small-scale gold permits, and even begun nuclear cooperation talks with Russia. Now he is coordinating with Mali, Niger, and even overtures from Ghana under the Alliance of Sahel States to build shared energy infrastructure. In May 2025, regulators from the Sahel bloc met to harmonize energy policy, new power grids, shared energy corridors, gas deals, and to establish their own industrial strategy independent of European control. These two leaders are not just acting in parallel. They are forging a continental shift. The European Union is watching this carefully and, privately, anxiously. Kagame's Rwanda, in public statements, has expressed that Africa should determine its own path to renewables and nuclear, calling for fairness, planning, and African-led energy transformation. Together, they are announcing one energy vision, a continental grid powered by African sun, dams, lithium fields, uranium deposits, wind corridors, and governed by African interests. The European Union, which announced billions in investments to support just energy transition in South Africa and partnerships across the continent, is suddenly confronting the reality that African unity on energy policy may not include them, or may require far greater equity than currently offered. For Burkina Faso, the stakes could not be higher. Rwanda, similarly, is pushing its own path. Together, Traore and Kagame are the bold edge of a new energy renaissance in Africa, seeking a sovereign African energy market, a shared grid, unified regulatory standards, and mutual technical cooperation. What does this mean for the EU? It means their global gateway energy investments, their climate justice rhetoric. The consequences are wide-ranging. As the Sahel Alliance considers joint energy projects, exports, pipelines, and power-sharing frameworks, ECOWAS exclusion threatens to fracture West African integration. In public, EU statements emphasize continued cooperation and support for Agenda 2063 and AU goals. This is more than a policy shift. This is a revolution in African self-determination. Tonight, we are witnessing history in motion. A new African energy architecture is emerging. What began as a bold idea, African nations determining their own energy destiny, is now taking root as a transformative alliance. Let us be clear. This is not just about solar panels, uranium, or energy grids. This is about sovereignty. For too long, Africa has been seen as a continent to extract from, a source of oil, gold, cobalt, uranium, lithium, and more. They are rejecting outdated economic models. They are saying no to debt traps disguised as development loans. What we're seeing is the early architecture of an African energy bloc. Now, of course, the response from international players has been swift. But let us be honest, Africa is not moving away. There is a profound difference between dependency and partnership. Traore and Kagame are not rejecting cooperation. They are demanding fairness. More African nations are beginning to ask it, too. And yes, this is rattling the traditional order. And so, the question arises, what comes next? The answer lies in the hands of Africans themselves. This new energy vision will not be easy. From the gold of Burkina Faso to the rivers of Rwanda, from the lithium of Mali to the sunlit deserts of Niger, Africa has the resources. Captain Traore has shown a level of defiance rarely seen in West African leadership, a willingness to confront foreign powers. Together, their alliance is more than symbolic. We close this report not with fanfare, but with recognition. As the sun sets on the age of African dependency, a new dawn rises, one fueled by the power of African energy, African leadership, and African unity. We will continue to follow this story as it develops. Thank you for joining us.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.